So. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We take this time before Jummah to answer questions that any community members might have. I try to give preference to those who are present. If not, I receive questions all the time, and I have a list of questions already prepared. But if we do have any questions from the community or from those people who are present, I prefer answering those questions first. Anyone? Okay. A question that I received recently was about a Muslim man marrying a kitabiyah, or marrying a non-Muslim woman, if she is a Jew or if she is a Christian. And there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars, some of them putting conditions on the spaces where they can actually marry. The agreed upon opinion that all scholars agree on is that if it is in a Muslim society, then it is permissible for a Muslim man to marry a Christian woman or a Jewish woman. In addition to, so you have this situation, and then you had also Umar radiallahu anh preventing many of the soldiers when they were going out from marrying these Christian women and these Jewish women. There are scholars who did allow this even in spaces or even in non-Muslim lands. So like I said, there is a difference of opinion on this. That's from the religious standpoint. The other problem comes in is you realize that one of the reasons that this condition on being in a Muslim land was placed was because of the effect that it has on the children. I've seen a number of relationships, and I've seen a number of marriages between a Muslim man and a Christian or a Jewish woman, and the marriage itself is successful because it's very contained. He will practice, she will practice, they'll kind of do their own things separately. The problem that comes into most of these marriages, and that comes into most of these scenarios, is when they have children. This is usually the biggest issue, and this is usually the biggest problem. Even for women who weren't practicing before the marriage, something happens, I don't know what, something happens where after they have a child, you will find that they start practicing their religion more than they did before they had this child. I've seen multiple marriages break on this specific issue. I've seen families break on this specific issue. It is something I highly, highly, highly discourage. And the reason for this is because of the breaks that it causes in the family. And because of the harms that it causes in the family. Many of the children who are raised in those households, they're confused. They'll see their mother practicing one way, they'll see the father practicing another way. Another problem and another layer of issues that happens is that the men who are preferring this, so the men that are looking for a Christian or a Jewish woman, the problem isn't the fact of for them seeking the marriage. The problem is that there's usually some bigger issue that he is facing. And that bigger issue that he's facing, many times you'll find that this person is not practicing. Many times this person is far from the masjid. Many times this person is far from the community. And the reason is because of the bad interactions that he has had with his parents, the bad interactions that he's had with the community, the bad interactions that he's had with other people. So now what has happened is he's angry at the Muslims. Right? So he's angry at his parents, or he's angry at community members, or he's angry at certain situations. So what he does is that many times, whether it be in college or at the workplace or whatever the situation might be, he'll meet someone who is nice to him for the first time. And this is something that we lack. So there's a lot of anger within the community. There's a lot of anger with individuals. And this person, he will have these 1, 2, 3 bad interactions, and from there he'll develop an opinion that all Muslims are like this. He himself he won't have a problem with Islam because he still ascribes himself to Islam, he still calls himself Muslim. But the problem he'll have is with the individuals, and the reason he's far from the community is not because he hates the religion, it's because he doesn't want to deal with the people. And this is a theme and something that we've discussed time and time again on if we aren't tolerant with our youth, if we aren't tolerant with our daughters, if we aren't tolerant with our sons, if we don't, and tolerant doesn't mean that we allow them to do bad things. That's not what I'm saying. But tolerant means that we actually need to engage in conversation when they do bad things. Because just like they do bad things, when we were young, we used to do bad things too, right? None of us was like, pure and practicing and, did everything we were supposed to do. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ اللَّهِ. Except for those few individuals who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had placed salahiyah and placed the taqwa in their hearts. But most of us, we made mistakes. Most of us caused problems. Most of us did things we shouldn't have been doing. Most of us made our parents upset at one time or another. And if we understand that when we were younger, we caused problems and we caused issues for our parents, where did we cause those issues? Many times we caused issues in places where we shared the same culture, in places where they had a support system of aunts and uncles and cousins, friends and neighbors. Everybody kind of knew each other, and we still caused problems in those scenarios. Now we live in a generation where many of our children don't have access to their ammat and khalat, and like our amma and their akhwal. Like they don't have access to their family members. They don't have, the friendships that we have. The basis of those friendships are very different. And I'm not saying that this is an excuse or that it makes it okay for them to be disrespectful or it makes it okay for them to do wrong things, but it should make us more understanding. Like as a parent, like as a father, as a mother, it should make me more understanding that the challenges that my son or daughter is facing, I won't say better or worse, but I will say different, right? So the challenges that they're facing are different than the challenges that we faced when we were growing up. And if we understand that the challenges that we faced are different, then the way that we approach the challenge has to be different. And because I don't have access maybe to my brother or my sister or maybe to people who are elder to me or the elder generation, many times we'll say, okay, well, who am I supposed to talk to? Who am I supposed to seek advice from? How am I supposed to deal with my child or deal with my son or my daughter when I have a problem? So one solution is go to the imam, right? That's always a solution. Go see the imam. But the problem is that people will usually come and see me when something is already broken. Right? That's usually the problem. It's not, okay, I'm working on developing a relationship with my son now. My son is still small. What are some things I can do? How can I better my... It's not about, okay, how do I make things better? It's usually, okay, this is broken. How do I fix it? And for something to break, especially something like a relationship, it takes years. It takes time. A relationship isn't developed overnight. So you're talking about 6, 7, 10, 15 years of damage, and then we come and we see the imam, and hopefully he'll read some dua and he'll read like Ayatul Kursi over my son, and all of a sudden everything is going to be cured. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. The 15 years of investment that I made in my son and my daughter and the relationship, it's probably going to take double the time to fix it. So the best thing to do is to make sure that we start off on a good foot and that we start off on a good base. And because I don't have access to people, there are another group of people that we do have access to. And just like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the Muhajirin came to Medina, they didn't know anybody. They didn't have any family. They didn't have any support. They didn't have any friends. So what did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? He came up with the mu'akha system. And the mu'akha system was something that was divinely inspired, right? The Prophet ﷺ was inspired and he implemented it on the community. And we don't have anything like that, but it doesn't mean we can't do something similar to it. And the question might be, okay, who do I determine to be my brother? If I share my problems and share them, right? There's a difference. If I'm sharing a problem because I'm looking for a solution or I'm complaining, these are two different things. And both of them are fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But if I keep complaining and I'm not listening for solutions, eventually what happens is that people will move away and they'll stop listening to me. But if I'm sharing a problem and I'm listening to what people are proposing and trying to give a solution, then more people will be involved. But the reason we don't do that is because of our own egos. Well, what if I tell them my son is doing drugs? What are the people going to say? Or if my daughter has a boyfriend, what are the people going to say? Or that this happened, or I got into a fight, or my son is lying. What are people going to say? And this ego is what is destroying these relationships. Because I fear in sharing my problems. And a woman called me complaining about her son and blah, 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 and she asked me something. She said, am I the only one facing this problem? And I said, how many people have you talked to about this problem? Because you would be surprised that all of us face these issues. There's nobody who doesn't have a problem, there's nobody who doesn't have an issue. The problem is that we're scared to share them because we're so fixated on protecting our honor and protecting our nafs. If we want to protect our honor and protect our nafs, the only thing we need to do is turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will protect it for us. But nobody's honor has ever been lost in looking for looking for solutions to their problems. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.